Our Lady of the Roses, Mary Help of Mothers Shrine, presents the urgent message from Bayside. Since the year 1840, there have been some very special apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary. She has appeared in many countries, in many roles, and to many individuals. But in all of her authenticated appearances, the message is always essentially the same. She comes to call mankind to prayer, especially that of the Holy Rosary, and to penance. And frequently she comes to warn of impending dangers. Throughout the world, many great shrines have been built in honor of Our Lady's appearances. One of the most famous places of pilgrimage today is in Lourdes, France. Here, a pathway below the main basilica leads to a grotto where our Blessed Mother, proclaiming herself the Immaculate Conception, appeared in 1858 to a little peasant girl named Bernadette. A miraculous spring of water erupted right below the grotto, the means of which has cured hundreds of thousands. Over 1 million pilgrims from around the world visit the shrine yearly. It is truly a great gift from Our Lady to her afflicted children. Not far from France, in Fatima, Portugal, stands another huge basilica built in honor of Our Lady. Here, in 1917, she appeared to 3 small children and made major prophecies, many of which have long since been well fulfilled. A small chapel marks the exact spot where Our Lady gave these prophecies regarding the rise and the spread of the evils of communism. Here she pronounced the stark necessity of mankind returning to prayer and penance, and to avoid a punishment worse than war. Our Lady's preoccupation with sinners is well known. She comes to warn, to console, to guide. She comes, it seems, as though with a candle, searching out the souls in darkness of spirit. In the authentic cases where Our Lady has truly appeared, the same elements always present themselves. There is always the honest but persecuted visionary, usually a simple person or persons of humble origin. There is always the rush of crowds, the entrance of civil authorities, and usually the persecution by the local chancery and priests. And who is usually in the forefront of the persecution when visions are authentic? Little Jacinta, the youngest seer of Fatima, expressed it best in 1918, when in answer to a question requesting to know which was the worst of the crosses, she replied simply, but without bitterness, "The priests, of course. It is the priests who make us suffer the most." Today there is an apparition going on in New York that has all the elements of the foregoing. Many believe that it may prove to be one of the greatest apparitions of Our Lady in the entire history of the Roman Catholic Church. The seer is Mrs. Veronica Lueken, a housewife and mother of 5 from Bayside, New York, which is a suburb of Queens. Veronica was born on July 12, 1923, in Flushing, New York. She was brought up and has lived her entire life in the greater New York area. Her birthday coincides with the date shown in some of the old missals as the Feast of Saint Veronica, the pious matron of Jerusalem who made the historic gesture of wiping the face of Christ on his way to his crucifixion. Veronica married Arthur Lueken in 1945. Up until the summer of 1968, she lived the life of an ordinary New York City housewife, with her husband Arthur, a construction engineer, and their family. Their family consists of 1 daughter and 4 sons. The youngest son, Raymond, who at the age of 10 in 1968 shared one of his mother's initial mystical experiences. Sadly, on January 29, 1974, Raymond was shot and killed in a tragic hunting accident at the age of 15. His death was a shock and sorrow to his mother, who regarded him as the closest to her of her children. Veronica's first mystical experience came in 1968. It was at this time that Saint Teresa, the Little Flower, appeared to her in her home, and this vision was shared by her son Raymond. During a period of the next 2 years, Saint Teresa explained many things about heaven and herself to Veronica. Saint Teresa said that she had been sent by heaven to save souls on earth. She was not going to remain idle while in heaven. Saint Teresa also dictated many poems to Veronica, which have been published in the booklet titled Oculations from Heaven. Veronica's early vision seemed to be a sort of preparation for the coming of Our Lady, who announced to her in 1970 that she wanted rosary vigils held outdoors on the eves of the great feast days of the Catholic Church. Veronica was instructed that the vigils were to be held on the grounds of the old St. Robert Bellamine's Catholic Church, which is located in Bayside, Queens, New York. Our Lady designated this area as her sacred grounds and has affirmed that someday a great basilica will stand upon them. She also promised that a healing spring of water, like the one that flows at Lourdes, will also come someday and flow upon these grounds. Our Lady requested that she be invoked under the title Our Lady of the Roses, Mary, Help of Mothers, and promised that if the vigils were faithfully kept, she would appear to Veronica at each of the vigils and give heavenly messages of worldwide importance. The vigils commenced on June 18, 1970, and, as instructed, were held on the eves of the great feast days of the Roman Catholic Church. Our Lady kept her promise and not only appeared herself at each vigil, but came accompanied by her Son, our dear Lord, many saints, and at times the heavenly angels, St. Michael being among the most prominent and outspoken of them. During her ecstasies, Veronica would describe her vision and repeat word for word the messages she was given. Heaven often referred to her as their voice box, as she was an instrument they were using to speak to a generation gone astray. The messages were best recorded to facilitate the distribution of them. The content of the messages given revealed the general state of evil in the world, the state of corruption within the Catholic Church, the sufferings of the Holy Father, and the necessity of worldwide atonement to the Eternal Father to avoid a terrible chastisement that would be beyond comprehension. Heaven warns that a great worldwide warning, miracle, and fiery chastisement are very near at hand. In a message given to Veronica by Jacinta, the youngest seer of Fatima, Veronica was told, "It is true that I gave a final message, but I too could not give the date, only to warn the world that a great warning would come to mankind. It would be a great cataclysm, a warning, and then there would be a great miracle. And after that, if nothing changes and man continues to offend the Father, he would have to start this terrible trial, for there would be a great war, and there would be a great, terrible chastisement." This chastisement, which heaven warns of and refers to often as the ball of redemption, would be a comet which would strike and burn the earth, but before this, many trials will befall mankind. The words of St. Michael to Veronica forcefully warn us of the many minor chastisements which will descend upon us. Hasten, hearken, and listen to the words of warnings to a generation that has been perverse, degraded in abomination, committed to offend your God. In justice and for penance there will be visited upon your earth great trials, droughts, famine, rotting crops, hurricanes, floods, all manner of earth tremors, and disturbances of nature, increasing in volume, spreading throughout your world. There will be eruptions and manifestations that shall bring terror to the hearts of many in places that have